Hey students, this is the lesson from January 5th, Tuesday, January 5th, that our goal was to solve absolute value equations. So I want to walk through some of the highlights from this. Make sure you take a chance to pause and ask any questions that you have as we move forward. All right. And so our first question, right, was we were just talking about what does it mean to be 4 units away from 0. And so when we're looking at this, remember we could be 4 units away to the positive, or we could be 4 units away to the negative, but distance is never negative, okay? And so we need to start thinking about absolute value, saying how far is something away from 0? And so here both 4 and -4 are 4 units away from 0. And so when you look at that, we write it like this. The absolute value of -4 is equal to 4, and the absolute value of 4 is equal to 4. And that's what we want you to focus on as you look at this. So make sure this is in your notes. Pause and take some notes. So hopefully you took notes on that. So now what we're saying here is the absolute value of x equals 5. What value or values could x have? And again, when you read this right here, when you read this, I want you to say, what number, when we take its absolute value, could be 5. And so we know we could put a 5 in there because the absolute value of 5 is 5. Or we could put a -5 in there because the absolute value of -5 is also 5. And so your answer is x could be 5 and x could be -5. Notice both numbers are a distance of 5 away from 0. And I like to think about, students are like, no, that's -5 away. Well, if I told you to take 5 steps, you could go forward 5 steps, or you could go backwards 5 steps. Both of those distances are positive. So take a look here. There's 4 problems, and this is from slide 15 of today's Desmos. 4 problems that I want you to solve. So take a moment, pause, and solve them. Okay. So the first one you did was A. What values, if I take the absolute value, would give me 7? Well, I could put a 7 in here, or I could put a -7 in there. So x equals 7 and -7. B is very similar. Try it. If you haven't yet, pause and try it. If the absolute value of x is 133, well, which 2 numbers are 133 away from 0? The first one, 133, is 133 away from 0. But if I go in the negative, right, 133 away from 0 in the negative is, you guessed it, -133. Now try C out. Did you try it? What did you get? Did you get 2? Well, it's kind of a trick question. What number can I put in the absolute value and get back a -2? That being said, what's a -2 away from 0? The answer is no solution. There is nothing that's a distance of -2 away. That's like me asking you, take -2 steps. You might think, oh, I go backwards, but no. Or what if I asked you, drive -2 miles? Even if you back up in your car 2 miles, you're still driving 2 miles. All right. And so the answer is no solution because you can't have a negative answer. All right. Now let's try out this last one. All right. When I have D, what we're saying here is the absolute value. The absolute value of x minus 7 is equal to 10. So what I really like to think of is everything in here, we want it to equal either 10 or -10. Because if it's -10 inside, it becomes 10. If it's +10 inside, it becomes 10. So I write it 2 ways. The first way I write it is x minus 7. I want that to equal a +10. and x minus 7, I want that to equal negative 10. Because again, if this equals either positive or negative 10, the absolute value is 10. And so it's simple one-step equations after you get it set up. Add 7 to both sides and you get 17, or add 7 to both sides of this one, negative 10 plus 7 gives you a negative 3. So my solution is either x equals 17 or x equals negative 3. You have two solutions to one problem. Now, if you're like, that doesn't make sense, Mr. Winter, okay, we'll plug them in here. If I plug a 10 in here, if I plug a 17 in here, 17 minus 7, well, guess what? That's the absolute value of 10. What's the absolute value of 10? It's 10. Perfect. Well, let's change that 7, or 17, and let's change it to the negative 3. Negative 3 minus 7. That's negative 10. Is the absolute value of negative 10 10? Yes. And thus we have two solutions. How do we get to negative 10? How do we get to 10? They both give us the same solution. So slide 16 has a way of walking through that for you. Here in slide 17, I want you to try this problem then on your own. Okay? So try out the absolute value of x minus 8 is equal to 3. Again, set up your two problems. I want this inside here to equal 3, and I want that inside there to equal negative 3. Pause it. Show me your two problems. All right. The two problems you should have set up should be x minus 8 equals 3 and x minus 8 equals negative 3. Again, follow those steps to do it. And now you have your one-step problems. Add 8 to both sides, and you get x equals 11. Add 8 to both sides. Negative 3 plus 8 is 5. All right, when you get this first answer, don't just say it's 11 or negative 11. That's not how this works. You can plug your answers back in here to make sure they work. If I plug 11 in, I get 11 minus 8, that's 3. Boom. If I plug a 5 in there, I get 5 minus 8, that's negative 3. Absolute value of negative 3? 3. So these are your two solutions. All right. Okay, set 18, when you look at this problem here, and I grab this for you, just bring this up here quick. This error solution here, you see one solution to this absolute value? Well, we need to have two solutions to our absolute value, so that's what's wrong there. Go ahead and I want you to try out slide 19 all by yourself. See how you can do here. Pause it and check that out. All right, so did you set up your two equations? X minus 2 equals 15 and x minus 2 equals negative 15. Again, pause it. If you don't have those, try it out. You're going to add 2 to both sides. And you're going to get either x equals 17, or on this side, you're going to get x equals negative 13. All right. All right, so now you're looking at slide 20. Set this up in two equations. Again, nothing's changed except you see it looks a little bit different. Here we have the absolute value of 6x plus 3 is equal to 27. Again, what can we get inside of here that we take the absolute value could give us 27? Well, either 27 or negative 27. If I take the absolute value of either, they both give me 27. And that's why we set up two equations. One to try to get to 27 and one to try to get to negative 27. So set up those two equations, pause this and see if you can solve it. It would just be two-step equations now. My first equation will be negative 6x plus 3 equals 27. And my second equation, I'll do in red, is negative 6x plus 3 equals negative 27. All right. So let's solve the negative one first. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I get negative 6x equals negative 30. Divide by negative 6. Negative 30, negative 6. When I divide a negative by a negative, I get a positive. In this case, it's 5. So x is 5 is one of my solutions. Try out the second one. Again, subtract 3 from both sides. 27 minus 3 is 24. negative 6x. Divide both sides by negative 6. 24 divided by 6 is 4. Positive divided by negative, negative 4. So my two solutions to this absolute value are negative 4 and 5. You plug them in, negative 4 times, negative 4 times negative 6 is 24. 24 plus 3 is 27. If I plug in a positive 5, I get negative 30. Negative 30 plus 3 is negative 27. All right. And when I take the absolute value of negative 27, I get 27. Hopefully you're nailing it. All right, the last one I want you to try then is the exit ticket on slide 25. Go ahead, pause this, try that out. And when you finish this, would you email your teacher? Let us know how you did, what other questions you have. So take a second, try this out. So here you go. Hopefully you set up these two equations. What's inside is equal to the positive 23, and what's inside is equal to negative 23. Subtract 3 from both sides. We get negative 2x equals 20. Divide by negative 2. And I get x equals negative 10. Do the negative side of this equation. Again, subtract 3 from both sides. I get negative 26. Divide by negative 2. Ooh, I see a negative divided by a negative, and I get a positive 13. All right. Hopefully that made a lot of sense to you. If not, go back, watch it, find a video that has to deal with solving absolute value equations, and we'll keep working through this. Remember, your homework is in lessons 3.3.1. It's questions 381, 384, and 386. Find that in the Google Classroom if you need to, or take a look right here. 381, 384, and 386. Have a great night.